Te damos la bienvenida al Ministerio de Transportes y Comunicaciones del Perú.
We welcome you in Ghana.
We welcome you to Transportes Metropolitanos of Trujillo.
Welcome from GIZ, Ecuador.
We welcome you in the Ministry of Transport in Colombia.
Bienvenidos y bienvenidas desde Ecuador.
Bienvenidos a la Semana del Transporte.
Welcome from the Transport Ministry of Ecuador.
You're from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Welcome to the GIZ office Manila and mabuhay from the Philippines.
Welcome to the Ministry of Roads and Transport, Kenya. Karibu sana, hakuna matata.
Okay, so starting this year conference, we are some things to be taken into account. So please, housekeeping etiquette rule, in order to have a safe conference, please keep your microphone muted all the time. Raise your hand if you want to speak or propose a question, or use the chat, be active there and let us know how it is going for you. Turn on your videos so we can see you and connect. Stay present and be respectful. Transport Week is a space where we build networks of peers. So let's keep this space safe. And it's very important for us, if you want to give us a feedback or by any chance you feel offended by the content given in our sessions, please send us an email to Keisha Mayuno or Anneli Stutz, and we will receive your feedback carefully. If you have any issue, please contact us to the transportweek@kz.de email, and we will take care of your things. So important for you to know that we have 66 speakers and 1,300 registrations that represent 91 countries. So we are very happy for that, especially because the concept of this year is to connecting the dots, fostering global transport climate action. One big opportunity for us of being online is that we can open the floor for many of you global-wide, and we are happy to share the network that we are building for the last 8 years. So during this week, we will be offering you 4 kinds of sessions: global community, where we will be gathering together in order to talk about the topics that matter the most to us. We will be having regional perspective, where we will be knowing about the Western Balkans on Tuesday. We will be learning about Africa and Latin America. Thank you, Brazil, for the flag. We will be also knowing about Asia on Thursday. Project practice will lead us into a global atmosphere of exchange of projects and how are our implementations going. And finally, we are having side events where our expert partners will be leading us into specific topics that matters for transformation. The agenda of this year, as you will see, has a narrative where we are, first of all, calling for action. So this is about today. We have 2 sessions today, the welcoming session we are now, and the next session we will be listening from the ministries from transport in Colombia and Chile, and we will be having a panel with women power from transport transformation in Latin America. On Tuesday, we will be talking about urban multisectorial transformation. We will be connecting LIVE with the World Urban Forum. We will be learning from the experience in the Western Balkans. We will be talking about gender, a very key topic for transformation. And finally, we will be having a session on efficiency in the technical side of the electromobility. Wednesday will lead us through standards and innovation, where we will be talking about adaptation, fueling and energy, and we will be knowing the case of Africa and Latin America with in between a session with the Atlas of City Transport and innovative platform that IUTP is to show. On Thursday, we will be going through the climate commitment, which is in the heart of our efforts, and then we will be knowing from Asia, we will be talking about trucks, we will be writing together a message, we will be knowing a little bit today. And then we will be closing with how can we best influence the NDCs from the transport sector. Thursday, we will be closing on tracking change and also the role of the civil society with think tanks from Africa. Having this rich agenda, I would like to invite you to the first session of the day, which is Let's Take Action, Connecting the Dots. Welcome to Transport Week and Climate Change. Our first welcoming words are coming from the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action. And for that, I would like to introduce Ms. Birgit Schwenk, who is Deputy Director General for National and European Climate Policy at the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action. Before that, assuming she was in the role, served as the Deputy Director of Climate Action and at the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, and was Deputy Director General for Strategic Aspects of the Environmental Policy and Environmental Law at the German Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety. Ms. Schwenk studied law and international relations in Freiburg, Edinburgh, and Bologna, and completed her legal clerkship in Berlin. The floor is yours, Ms. Schwenk.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I hope you can hear and see me all over the virtual room here. Wonderful, thank you very much. I'm really honored to be able to open this Transport and Climate Change Week 2024. I am very happy that you're having me here at a very good time. Very timely to have this discussion as we are just 1 week away from the climate conference in Baku, COP29. And we have a long story of collaboration in the transport sectors in the International Climate Initiative. And it's not the first time, actually, that I'm taking part also in the Transport and Climate Change Week. And I'm very happy and very excited to be able to have this discussion this week. So last year, we celebrated 15 years of our International Climate Initiative, and 2023 also marked the launch of our EKI strategy 2030. This strategy will help us to make the greatest possible contribution to tackling climate and biodiversity crises in our partner countries, together with our partner countries. We have devised this strategy building on previous experience and successes and conversations we've had with all of you all over the world. And we have clear objectives in our focus areas. And these focus areas actually look at preconditions and enabling environment for long-term GHG reduction, on biodiversity conservation, and on climate adaptation, as all these areas are closely linked. And part of one of these focus areas is climate-friendly mobility transitions, and especially, of course, effective decarbonization of the transport systems. And I believe that this is a sector where we can really deliver on EKI targets. Our portfolio aims at addressing the large and growing sources of emissions, especially avoiding traffic and shifting to sustainable modes of transport. And I have to say that we have a number of rapidly motorizing countries all over the world, and I'm glad that some of these are partner countries in the EKI, because especially in these rapidly motorizing countries, there is both a large need, but also a very large potential for GHG emission reductions. And I would like to just mention a few examples where we can support and collaborate with our partner countries in the transport sector. And for instance, this is implementing MRE systems, so measuring, reporting, verifying systems, developing decarbonization scenarios for transport, and those can also be integrated or should also be integrated in NDCs and updated NDCs. And there is also projects on roadmaps for energy transition in the transportation sector. And of course, we have to foster electrification of public transport and of logistics. So I would like to look a little on our national situation as well in Germany, because of course, collaborating with you can only work if we also do our homework nationally. So Germany has pledged to become net greenhouse gas neutral by 2045. And I should add that this is not only a political commitment, but it is enshrined in law in our National Climate Protection Act. So climate neutral by 2045. That is, of course, challenging. And all sectors must play their part, including, of course, the transport sector. What are we doing nationally? Just one or two examples here as well. So we're supporting the uptake of electric vehicles in the heavy duty segment. We're setting up a megawatt charging network, and we have introduced a CO2 upcharge on tolls for heavy duty vehicles. That has just entered into force this year. And our national measures have, of course, to be complemented by EU-level measures. Otherwise, this wouldn't work. I'm hearing somebody speaking in the virtual room. Thank you very much. And on EU level, we have most notably emission standards for both heavy and light duty segment, just as an example there on EU policies. Now, what's the situation with our emissions in Germany? We're quite happy that last year we had the highest emission reductions ever since 1990. And predictions also say that we are, for the first time, on track to meet our 2030 climate targets. That is, of course, on the precondition that we continue to implement our ambitious measures that we have in our national climate program. So, of course, all sectors have to play their role, and the situation in the sectors is somewhat diverse. So we have an especially good development in the energy sector, where we've seen a large expansion of renewable energies in Germany due to new legislation. We have to say that the transport sector is a little more difficult. Emissions there have not essentially decreased. So still homework to do there nationally. And of course, globally, because globally we see that the transport sector is responsible for 1/4 of energy-related greenhouse gas emissions, and it's one of the fastest growing emission sources. And net zero in transport sector would be really essential by mid-century for achieving the Paris Agreement targets. So once again, very timely to have this conference, to have our week's exchange on the transport sector 1 week ahead of COP29. Very good opportunity to reflect on what international level conditions should be to help us introduce our right national policies. Technical cooperation, like in the IKI, is one important building block, I believe, to create this enabling environment. Climate finance is another one, which will be especially high on the agenda in Baku this year. I can say, I think, that Germany is really a reliable partner in terms of climate finance. 5.7 billion euros from our federal budget funds go into climate change mitigation and adaptation at the international level. That is really necessary because the global investment needs are huge. It has been estimated that investment needs in the global south alone are up to $650 billion US, and that is per year. So a huge number. It's important that all donors, public, international, private, step up to this challenge. And we also have to take advantage of innovative mechanisms such as green guarantees, which is something that I'm sure we'll hear a little about also this week. Now, I have spoken a long time already, so let me come to the end of my words, and that is to say that I'm really happy on our collaboration with partner countries on all continents here in the IKI. I'm very happy to have a huge number of people on the screens all over the globe to a very warm welcome to the whole of this week, to everyone tuning in right now from all continents. The commitment that all of you share is extremely important, and it's very appreciated. I look forward to a week full of insights, full of learning experience for everybody, and wish you fruitful discussions. And I'm happy to be able to be back this week again. So you'll see me again, probably Friday at the latest. Yeah, and now let's go and start and get working. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schwenk, for your words. Thank you for reminding us the importance of the climate funds and also how the technical approach is a building block, very important. So this is why we are building Transport Week, because collaboration comes in a two-way street, and we are all engaged in this global goal of stopping global warming. So thank you, Ms. Schwenk, again, and we wish you a good afternoon. Thank you very much. So continuing with the program, I just need to say that we are above 100 connections, so very happy for that, because we are already reaching more population that we can reach in one room in person. And now we are receiving the welcoming words from the house. So I would like to introduce to you Ms. Ingrid-Gabriela Hoven, who since 2020 served as Managing Director of the GIZ. She studied economics and political science in Germany and France, and has worked extensively in development cooperation, including roles in the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and at the GIZ as a predecessor organization, die Deutsche Gesellschaft für Technische Zusammenarbeit, GTZ. She turned to the BMZ to serve in the key position, notably as Director General for Bilateral Development Cooperation with Asia and Latin America, United Nations, Peace Building, Human Rights, Good Governance, and later as Director General for Global Issues. For 4 years, she represented the German government as Executive Director at the World Bank Group, focusing on climate action and sustainability. In addition to these roles, she is involved in several advisory and supervisory boards, including the German Energy Agency and Development and Peace Foundation. Welcome, Ms. Hoven. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for your kind introduction, and many thanks especially to Birgit Schwenk for her welcoming remarks and setting the scene, and also a warm welcome to all our international guests that actually make this Transport Week so special. So warm welcome to all of you. Many thanks for having me again this year in this virtual edition of the Transport Week. Actually, more than 1,000 people have signed in. This is really an impressive number. So we at GIZ, we often do these kind of virtual weeks or get-togethers, but such a high actually planned attendance, this is quite unusual, but it actually underlines that this is a very, very important topic, and it becomes increasingly important. And Birgit Schwenk has already outlined why this is the case, and not only in Germany with all the big numbers that you have described, but also around the world. And I tell you, I'm just coming back from COP16 in Cali, and I tell you, transport is an issue for many, many people. So really a big, big topic. So this conference this year is about connecting the dots. And what is meant is actually that we want to identify solution. We want to identify local and regional best practices. And we want that you together can connect those experiences and have really a deep dive into your experiences, the evidence that you have generated on the ground by seeing what are locally crafted solutions, how can this actually be transferred and scaled up perhaps to other locations, to other regions, and what is actually the type of enabling environment that we all need in order really to turn the transport sector into a net zero contributor to the decarbonization process. Birgit Schwenk has already said it, we all are ready really to get to Baku, a very important conference. But before I turn back to Baku COP29 on climate change, let me perhaps first summarize a couple of challenges that we observe right now, not only in Germany, but also globally in many countries we are partnering with as GIZ, that has to do specifically with the transformation of mobility of the transport sector. Let's face this, due to the impact of COVID-19 and increasing indebtedness of many countries, public budgets are under strain. So there is actually, countries are struggling really to mobilize the additional funds that are needed from domestic sources, from international sources, really to make the transformation a reality. Secondly, we have observed in many occasions that really we have to maintain public acceptance of climate change measures, especially in the transport sector. This has become more and more demanding. In some countries, what we see when we are advising, for instance, the Ministry of Transport in Kenya, that especially in the so-called Global South, there are more opportunities, more win-win opportunities, because while you change transport, while you make public transport through electrification more affordable, while you actually create new ways to have individual transport by bike, by motorcycles available, you generate new opportunities for income generation, and you increase equality in cities and in urban dwellings. But we have also seen that sometimes we may fall short really to transform the transport sector unless we embrace this in a broader concept of industrial transformation. And last but not least, unfortunately, and Birgit Schwenk has already referred to the numbers, still the energy demand of the transport sector worldwide is still almost entirely met by fossil fuels. This is the sad reality. So it will take us really an extra mile, an extra effort, really to make sure that we accelerate electrification where it is feasible, or for specific sub-areas of the transport sector recur to green hydrogen to substitute fossil fuels. But we have many, many good stories to tell, and I hope you're going to identify more during this Transport Week. For instance, in Rwanda, quite recently, decision makers, scientists, researchers, academic institutions met, and they spoke about a real strategic plan how to use electrification of the minibus sector across the African continent. And this would really be a game changer if this could be achieved at scale. In Colombia, actually, we see that the transport sector is of high importance, and locally, at the local level, new approaches are being shaped with different types of transport, really to serve both people and the planet, reduce emissions, at the same time give more opportunities. And the same, I could continue to tell you about additional workshops, dialogues at the high level that actually dedicated themselves exclusively to how to achieve zero emissions in the transport sector across certain regions. And these events are important because they tell a positive story that it's doable to turn the transport sector into decarbonization, that we have already a lot of pilots that are running successfully and to the satisfaction of people. And now certainly we have to focus on what does it take really to bring this to a different scale. That this is so extremely needed also in the run-up to COP29, the climate conference in Baku, is obvious. All of you may have heard about the GAP report that was published just a couple of days ago by UNEP, And unfortunately, globally, the world is heading towards the 3.1 degree Celsius world. This will bring a lot of risk and a lot of, tipping points that we possibly won't be able to manage. So what lies ahead of us in the remaining 5 to 10 years is really to figure out how we can best scale up and implement available technological solutions so that we can really contain global warming. In many areas that you are going to discuss this week, the technical solution is already available. The institutional solution has been tested. And in many cases also, we have entered into financing models where we can combine public and private funding to make these solutions a broad-scale reality for countries and people. This is what lies ahead of us. We have to achieve a higher level of ambition when it comes to decarbonization. And in any case, we can't walk alone. Partnering, collaboration are core and central. And that is what we want to practice this week, virtually, and hopefully with a lot of attendees. So many thanks to the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, as well as the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection for making this event possible and for their personal engagement throughout the week. And I would like also to thank the organizing team that had put so much effort and energy into the preparation of this meeting. We all know, how much has to be provided as support in the background to really have a good event. So many, many thanks to all of you. And I wish you all a very great week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frau Hoven. I take the congratulations to the whole team. There's more than 35 colleagues behind the scene making this possible, not only in Germany, but global-wide. So thank you very much for your words. And I will get with the question of how can we best scale up technical solutions? And of course, the invitation of being minded that the IKI is providing funds for achieving our projects and make possible the transformation in our countries and partner institutions in every country. So having these welcoming words from the ministry and the GIZ Bureau, thank you very much for the two of you, Ms. Schwenk and Ms. Hoven. And I will now like to turn the voice towards our audience because cooperation is key, and the heart of Transport and Climate Change Week is to promote a peer exchange. This year, we have special activities that we are taking the opportunity of having this massive reach of global community. And for that, we are proposing the first question. We will be doing a week. And for that, we will be collecting from every session an aspect. And what will it be if we do not know before? What are our guiding principles? So this is the moment for you to react and put on the poll. You can go up in the poll and then please write your answer. What or which principle should guide international and national policy making on transport and climate change? This is your opportunity to contribute. There you go, 6 answers. We have more than 100 people, so don't be shy. Put your words on the chat. In the poll, you go up, you have the bars, so this is the poll up. Good, good, good. We can see that, of course, collaborative, inclusive, local solution and transparency, for sure, stakeholder involvement, chief improvement, demand management, inclusivity, transparency, sector coupling, emissions, just demand management. And you can keep on writing down your solutions. These are the principles. And moving a little bit towards the future, you will see the poster will be collecting key messages in every session. We have 16 sessions That means 15 more sessions during the week, where we will be collecting expertise, knowledge, experiences. And on Thursday, everyone invited, we will be having a writing shop where we will be doing together the message to be delivered from the Transport and Climate Change Week community to the COP in Baku next Monday. You can keep typing your principles in the poll. And in the meantime, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, which we are very excited and expectant to know more about. We have today Pierre Lombard, who is coming from the city of Paris, and who was in charge of all the strategic management of transport during the past Olympic Games. So we are very happy and expectant to know more about the strategies and also some news that he has to share with us. So, Monsieur Pierre, s'il vous plaît, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you very much for the invitation and these first speeches. Let me know, you had my presentation and you were supposed to deliver it. So is it okay? That's perfect.
There you are.
Thank you very much. So I'm indeed in charge. I'm the deputy chief of staff of Mayor Anne Hidalgo in Paris, and I was in charge of the Olympic and Paralympic game. And during the past 5 years, I've also been in charge of the policy of mobility in Paris. And that's what I want to talk about today. To tell you how the games accelerated the transformation of Paris, its adaptation to climate change, and more generally our policy of mobility. First, I will try to set the background of what are the historical context in Paris, what are the administrative constraints, and what we had already done before the games. So yes, giving you the background and the framework that will allow you to understand where we were before the games and what precisely the games helped us to achieve. Maybe what you have to understand first is that we did not just host the games. The mayor, right at the beginning, really wanted the games to help us to accelerate our political agenda. And that's what really we tried to achieve with hosting the Paris 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. So first, let me tell you more about our political, historical background and what we already had done before the games in terms of mobility in Paris. So I will, to illustrate what I'm saying, I have a slideshow with some picture. It's just illustration so that you can figure out what exactly I'm talking about. So the background, the general background I wanted to talk about, it's mainly 3 points. It's the historical context, the administrative constraints, and the last point is what we had done before the game. So in terms of historical context, what you've seen is that Paris is an old city with narrow streets. So that was the first picture. And it's also a city where car culture shaped all the streets over half a century with modern fast access routes. So next slide, you can see that we have this is a street in the center of Paris, but also a huge highway ring road around Paris. So this is the next slides, and also fast access routes on the quays of our river, La Seine. So next slide, you will see this was our. So this is the ring road. Huge ring road with 3 or 4 car lanes, and the next slides represent the modern the fast access routes along River Seine, so on the quays of River Seine. So this is what we had in 2014 when the mayor was elected as mayor of Paris. And so this is our historical background. And we also have what that is important to know to understand the means of action in Paris is that we have strong administrative constraints also in Paris, because the street planning is a shared power between the state, the region, and the city. The state controls, for security reasons, the major axis, and there the rules of traffic are set by government, the state government. The region governs public transportation system, even if the city is the second biggest financial contributor to this public transportation system. The region is in charge of managing it, and so the political differences between the states on one part, the region, and the city made it very difficult in the past few years to implement change in Paris, because, as I told you, major axes were ruled by the states, and the public transportation system was ruled by the region. But even with this historical background and those administrative constraints, we managed since 2014 to implement some radical change in Paris. And so maybe next slide, please. As you will see, so one more slide. Maybe to explain the general philosophy of the mayor, the core of our policy over the past decade was to reallocate or redistribute space in favor of non-polluting or decarbonized means of transport. In order to do that, that meant fewer space for private combustion engine cars in the streets. So, for example, all the cars you're seeing here along the Seine, next slide, please, we gave back the river quays to pedestrians and cars in 2017. So this is one action. So, as I'm telling you, the core of our policy over the past decades was to redistribute space for pedestrian, bicycle. That means non-polluting or decarbonized means of transportation. It means fewer emissions, fewer pollution in fine particles in Paris, for example, and also it enabled us to create more quiet neighborhoods and improve the well-being of its inhabitants. So the few examples of what we achieved in the past decade. So as I told you, we gave back the river quays to pedestrians and bikes. This is one of the more controversial and famous decisions by Mayor Hidalgo. We had a lot of people protesting against this measure, but it was very successful in the end. Maybe next slides, please, to illustrate this. You will see in the slide. So we didn't refurbish the quays. We just closed it to cars and gave it back to pedestrians. We also opened restaurants. Maybe next slides. You can pass on the next slides. It's just another. You see like restaurants here that were created on the quays, and so that was a new area for Parisian and pedestrians to go and to run, to spend time with their children. So that was one of the measure the mayor took. The second type of measure is to redesign iconic squares of Paris. There were like big squares where cars, there were only cars there, and we decided to redesign it. So you can pass the next slides. So that this is the square, the yes, the Place de la Nation, so Nation Square, and as you will see, a lot of space for cars, and once more we redistributed space for pedestrians and bicycle. So we did it in Place de la Nation and Place de la Bastille, for example. So you can go on the next slides until I tell you to stop, because it will just, it's picture to illustrate what I'm saying. So this was the second types of measure we've taken. The third one is we also built hundreds of kilometers of new bike lanes and improved their quality. So this is Place de la Bastille, for example, and as you see, we gave back all this space to pedestrian, and connecting this column, the Bastille column, to the Seine. The Seine is down the screen. You will see in the next picture. And so we created a link and kind of somewhere to walk between the center of the place, which is really famous, and the River Seine, so people can walk and pass by walking and cycling. So squares, as I mentioned, we built hundreds of new bicycle lanes. There were like 700 kilometers of bicycle lanes in 2014, and now in 2024 we have 1,400 kilometers of bicycle lanes. So 700 kilometers of bicycle lane added. It's it's 2 times what we had in 2014. We also reshaped the streets planning to avoid through traffic. So this is the connection with the Seine. You see in this picture. You can go. This is the last picture. So you see bicycle, and we also reshaped street planning to avoid through traffic in small streets. So this is the next picture you will see, and maybe one of the most iconic decision the mayor took on the last years was to close some streets, and this is the next picture, not the next one, the next to this one, to close streets. So please, next picture. Yes, to close streets in front of schools and to plant trees and ban car parking and car traffic in front of local schools. So we did it in front of 200 schools. We closed 200, almost 200 streets, and our goal is to do it in front of 300 schools in Paris in 2006. And so this is concerning every district of Paris, and this is the Parisians really like this measure because it's better for their children, it's safer for their children too, and it also allows us to have more trees, and so it's cooling also the city when there is hot summers. Finally, we also built new tram lines. You will see on the next slide, and so also reshaping, as you will see in the next picture, the face of our streets. We had large streets with a lot of car lanes, and you will see maybe on the next slide. You will see in this picture that the tram lines is taking like 2 or 3 car lanes that existed before. So these tram lines were built around the edge of the city, so surrounding Paris, but it's also helped people to travel faster and in public transportation system. And the region, as I mentioned, is not this slide, please, not yet. As I mentioned it, the region is managing the public transportation system, but we are financing it, and we are financing the new transportation means. So the tramway is financed by the city and not by the region. And so maybe as I told you, this was the background of what we had done before the games, and since 2000, car traffic reduced by 40% in 20 years, which allows us to reduce also car-related pollution by 40%. It's what we measured. The 40 and 30% is not really. I mean, it's not. There is not a linked. I mean, it's not. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's 40 and 40%. So now that I sketched the background, let me tell you about the games and how it allowed us to accelerate our policy and accelerate the change for Paris. First, what was interesting is that I told you about the administrative constraints we had with the state and the region, and with the games, all these different authorities shared the same goal, which was delivering the best possible games for Paris, France, and the world, and maximizing their long-term benefits for Paris. And that was the difference before. That was the difference compared to what existed before the games, where different political entities had different goals. Now all those political entities were on the same page, and we really helped a lot the city of Paris, because we already had our guiding principle, which was, as I told you, redistributing space for non-polluting and decarbonized means of transportation. We had also a strong track record, as I showed you, but we managed to convince the state, the region, and the IOC to go in this way and to deliver the best games possible, and games based on this political agenda, which meant games accessible by public transportation system, by walking or by cycling. And that was the core of our policy for the games, and that's what we managed, I think, for those of you who were there in Paris this summer. That's what we managed to do, I think, this summer. So what we managed to achieve this summer. Next slide, please. First, the games allowed us to expand our bicycle infrastructure. I told you that we built a lot of new bicycle lanes in the past years, and that's true. But the games helped us to make a step forward, because we really wanted spectators to be able to go everywhere by bike, and so we built 60 kilometers of new bicycle lanes. These are the pink lanes on the map. Sorry, and we decided to build it for the games, so that people can go everywhere and to connect all the Olympic venues between them. And so we built those lanes. We used at the time only a mean of communication, but we used the term Olympiste, which is a play on word of Olympic and bicycle lane. Bicycle lane is a piste in French, so Olympiste is a contraction word of Olympic bicycle lanes, and so we used Olympiste. We launched these Olympiste, and that were a success. So maybe next picture, so you will see. You can see a few examples of those bicycle lanes. Next, you can put the four next slides. So this is right in the center of Paris, and we used so we created new bicycle lane. This is a bicycle lane in the north of Paris, connecting to the North Arena of Paris. It was and this is right in the center of Paris. So in the north of Paris, this one connecting to the arena, we built it in January 2024. And the next slide is right in the center of Paris in Île-de-la-Cité, and we built it also in April 2024. So just before the games, we delivered this one, and we also, for the games, and this is the next slide, implemented thousands of temporary bike parking spaces around the venues, so that people could go and could go by cycling to the games, and would be able to park their bicycle. So maybe 2 or 3 next slides. I don't know. Now you can, there are more, like this is the Rivoli Street, so one other example connected to Concorde Venue, and those are the temporary bicycle spots, so where people could park their bikes. So this is one in the center of Paris. The next slide is one in the venue of the north of Paris I was talking about, and so you will see there are private bicycle and also shared bikes. That was the last point I wanted to talk about on the bicycle infrastructure. We also developed bicycle sharing. We had 50,000 shared bike during the games. That was 10,000 more than usual. Usually we have 40,000 shared bicycle. Half of it is Velib system, which is public bicycle system, shared public bicycle system. Half of it is free floating bikes such as Lime or Uber bikes, and we increased shared bikes by 10,000 during the games, which means during the games we observed a 25% increase of the use of our bike lanes compared to previous summer. So it was a really strong improvement, and what we observed is that people used the bikes, and this is a venue. This is a bike parking space close to a venue during the game. So as you can see, people used it during the game. So this was our first achievements during these games, is that we managed to have bicycle games because we built the infrastructure and created the parking spaces. Our second achievement is that we use the games as a tool to pedestrianize some major areas in Paris. And I just want to take 3 examples. You have Place de la Concorde. Maybe a lot of you know Place de la Concorde in Paris. We have Place du Trocadéro, and we have also Pont d'Iéna. And next slide, please. For example, we use Place de la Concorde, and you will see the venue Place de la Concorde. During the games, we pedestrianized all the Place de la Concorde, so you can put on the next slides, so that people can enjoy this historical and huge square of Paris. We did the same with Pont d'Iéna, so you can put all the next slides to show you. So this is Place de la Concorde once again, as you can see. Next slide, please, to show the Pont d'Iéna. So this is the last one and so this is Pont d'Iéna. So this picture is taken from Eiffel Tower, but you will see on the next slides that during the games, this is the opening ceremony. So the athletes went through this bridge, and during the games it was also closed because it was a fan zone. So you will see the next slide. There was the fan zone in Trocadéro, and the bridge was closed because it was used for the cycling event. The finishing of the cycling event went through this, and so we used the games to close and to pedestrianize this area. And what we've done before the game is that we used it as a legacy for the Parisian, and so we did not reopen those spaces. And you can see the Pont d'Iéna is now closed to car, and it's for pedestrian people, for pedestrian and bicycle to be able to enjoy it and take picture or just pass through. And we are doing the same in Place de la Concorde. It will take some more time because we are refurbishing Place de la Concorde all over, but we are not reopening it entirely, and people will have access to obelisk at the center of Place de la Concorde, and they will be able to enjoy it. So really, the mayor used the games to continue her policy of redistributing space to non-polluting and decarbonized means of transportation, and we used it massively with, as I told you, with big bridges of Paris or big squares such as Place de la Concorde hors place du Trocadéro. So this was our second achievement and our second way of accelerating our policy. The third one concerns the Olympic lanes. So during the games, when you're hosting the games, you have to deliver fast access routes for the athletes and the Olympic family. The IOC called it the Olympic lanes, so it's for cars, and it's only for the athletes and Olympic family to allow the athletes to go faster and to be able to be on time for their competition. And what we wanted is that those Olympic lanes, as a legacy, would be transformed in car sharing lane in Paris. Its car sharing lanes exist for a long time in the US, for example, but we don't have car sharing lane in France or in Paris. We just have car sharing lane in some spaces, in some places in France, but only for 2 or 3 years. And so we didn't have car sharing lane in Paris, and so we decided to transform the Olympic lane in car sharing lane in Paris after the games. And so we still are in discussion with the Minister of Transportation, so the state, but the target is to launch this car sharing lane by January 2025, so in 2 months. And it will be a major step forward because today 1.2 million cars are using the ring road every day, and 80% of those cars are solo drivers. So we hope that it really will be a game changer for car sharing and reducing the use of cars on our ring road. So this was the third measure I wanted to talk about. The fourth point, and what is really also a big achievement for us, is the low traffic zone. Low traffic zone, and this is the perimeter of the low traffic zone. As you know, low traffic zone is to allow only certain specific cars to enter a zone, for example, inhabitants or people working in the zone, for example, but it's to prevent cars through traffic and to make sure that those people use the public transportation system or go somewhere else, but they cannot go through the zone after the implementation of this low traffic zone system. It exists in more than 300 cities in Italy, but we didn't have it in France. It's only possible since a national bill that was passed in 2018, I think. And so it took us 4 years to implement it, and I'm really happy to share with you that today is the first day of our low traffic zone. We are launching it today, and this is the largest low traffic zone in Europe. And so we are launching it today, and I'm really sure it will help us to accelerate changes in Paris. And the games really helped us in this policy, because as you saw, we pedestrianized and we reduced the place of cars in the center of Paris during the games by pedestrianizing all those areas. And so during the games there were fewer cars, and the state gave us credits for it. And in the end, the state told us, okay, I'm in charge. As I told you, they are in charge of the major axis in this zone. But we had a deal with the state last month, and the state agreed to sign the local. It's a local administrative bill to launch this zone. So today we are launching it, and maybe you will heard of it in the next days or months, because we are really eager to see the results of it in the next weeks. So this was our four achievements, and maybe the last thing I wanted to talk about to you this day is how the games, and this is my last point, sorry, helped us on accessibility and how we made improvements on this issue too, thanks to the games. I will just take two examples because, as you know, in terms of public transport system, is the region that is in charge. But we are even if the region even if the region is in charge, we were able to make small improvement on two specific things. First, the accessibility of the bus lines, because the region is in charge of the buses, but we are in charge of the bus stops. It's France, so it's complicated and everybody is doing a part of something, but the city was in charge of the bus stops. And so we improved the accessibility of all bus stops where the slope were too steep, where the footpaths were too high or too narrow. And so we invested 20 million euros in small modification, but in the end, before the games, no bus line was completely accessible, and after the games, all the 50 bus lines were accessible. So it took us 4 years, but 4 years of, as I told you, small modification, but that made the difference to enable us to have all our 50 bus lines in Paris accessible to people with disability or reduced mobility. So this was our first achievement. The second one is that we tried to develop what we called hyper-accessible neighborhoods. As I told you, Paris is an old city, so with narrow streets, narrow footpaths, and so it's really taking us a long time to transform the city and make it more accessible for all people with disability or people with reduced mobility. But for the games, we focused on specific districts in Paris, what we called hyper-accessible neighborhoods, and we tried to implement pedestrian crossing equipped with audio signals. We also worked on the accessibility of public facilities in those neighborhoods to make sure that all the public facilities were accessible in those neighborhoods. And finally, and that's how the games helped us, we also worked with official sponsors, such as Carrefour Supermarkets, Accor Hotel, to bring them with us in this policy and to make sure that in those neighborhoods, supermarkets were accessible, Accor hotels have accessible rooms. And so together, we worked on those hyper-accessible neighborhoods and tried to improve the accessibility in those neighborhoods. So not all over Paris, because as you can imagine, it's a huge city with, as I told you, very important historical constraints. But we started by focusing on specific neighborhoods to make sure that those neighborhoods were accessible. So in 5 points, 5 achievements, that's what I wanted to show you today, how the games really help us to deliver better mobility policy, better accessibility, and maybe to tell you that it's not just the games, it's because the mayor already had this agenda that we were working for the past 10 years on it, that we were able to use the games really as an accelerator of what we wanted and what we have already done. But that was really at the beginning of our candidacy for the games, and it was not something that we invented in the last mile of the candidacy. We think it through from the beginning to be able to deliver what I showed you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you for the inspirational keynote speaking to opening our Transport and Climate Change Week 2024. Accompanying your thoughts, 5 key ideas, taking the opportunity of the Olympics to improve the city, and as you said nicely, to implement the policy of redistributing the public space. So bike lane, pedestrianization of Olympic lanes, low traffic zones, and accessibility for buses and for neighborhoods. Many different aspects have been raised in your presentation. Thank you very much. I don't know if you are with time for some questions, and if someone maybe from the audience would like to propose a question, if it's okay for you, Pierre.
Yes, I have a few minutes if there are some questions.
Thank you. So open the floor now for you, the audience. That someone has a question. So in the meantime, someone feels less shy to have a question. I can see maybe someone is putting something in the chat. Okay, so maybe Darío González, you would like to propose a question. And please, before proposing your question, let us know in which language are you proposing the question.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna speak in English if that's fine.
Thank you. Yes, perfect.
Sorry for not turning on my camera. I'm currently in a space in which I have no nice light, so I'm sorry about that. So I'm in Toronto, Canada. I've been following the developments of what you've been doing in Paris. It's very encouraging. It's very inspirational. But at the same time, I'm in a North American city, with a huge car culture. And anytime we see shifts in public space usage as the ones that you've made in Paris, there's a huge backlash from basically the majority of the population, I would say, right? Because the whole city has been built around the car. So my question to you was, I acknowledge that in Paris, the situation was pretty similar. How did you manage to overcome, or rather to gather public support before the games to engage in such radical changes, like closing of highways and entire streets to vehicles? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, I don't know exactly what to answer because there is still strong opposition in what we are doing and what we have done, and I think it takes a lot of political courage to start and to begin. Sorry, and it was really hard for the mayor, and it's still really hard because we are facing some very strong opposition, and people are really fierce about it, and they still are. So I'm not sure it's. I'm not sure. I don't know if there is a way of gathering all the people. I think what you need is that to show that. You have to evaluate the policy. So that's what we are trying to do by closing some street in front of the schools. We show that we are reducing pollution, but you cannot do that just to fight against climate change, or you have to deliver results rapidly. And so that's why, for example, we also in Paris, people are happy now when they can use their bicycle and that it goes faster than using their car. So that's where the proof is that for Parisian people and even suburban people, when they change their way of living and they accept that car is not everything, when they use electric bicycle or even a normal bicycle, this is the proof that you can go faster and in a better way. But there is still a lot of backlash and a lot of opposition. I think it's they experienced the same in Amsterdam, for example, 30 years ago, or in Copenhagen. And what was really inspirational for me, and because you're from, sorry, I heard you were from Toronto. Is that it? Yes. I read the book from Janet Sadiq Khan, who was the former deputy of transportation of Mike Bloomberg, and she wrote a book called Street Fight. That explained what she did when she was in New York City, and she wrote down exactly what we faced in Paris by closing Times Square, for example, or building a new bicycle lane close to Park Slope in Brooklyn, and so I think all those changing. If you want radical changes, you will not be able to gather everybody, and so you have to do it at one point, and it takes some courage, and you have to be able to fight for it. But in the end, because we are convinced that it's the good things to do, in the end, people will recognize that it was the good things to do. And now for the bicycle in Paris, 10 years ago there was really strong fight. Now people agreed that the mayor was decided the good thing, but you have to start, and you have to start and to take radical and bold decision alone. I mean, that's what I learned in Paris. Maybe that's not a lesson that is for all of us, but that's what I learned in Paris. That's what I read about Amsterdam in the 80s, I think, where there was a strong fight between people around bicycle, and that's what I read about the Mike Bloomberg experience in around 2010.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Pierre. We are not trying to overwhelm you with questions, so to just have a little bit of balance, if it's still okay, we would like to get one question from the chat, and then we can just wrap up and let you go. So please, chat supervisor Daniel Bongar, my colleague, can you introduce us with the question from the chat?
So thank you, Pierre. Also quite impressive from my side. We had two questions in the chat, which are related to the time and the budget. So how long did it take for the planning of all of this that you presented in the Olympics, and also what was the budget for the measure? So how to deal with that?
Well, as I told you, it took us the candidate. We won the games in 2017, so it took us. Usually the games is there is an IOC planning which is 3 + 4 years, but with COVID and the rescheduling of the Tokyo Games, we had 4 years of planning and 3 years of implementation. But as I mentioned it, we did not invent it for the games. This was part of our previous policies. So I don't know. Concretely, it's 7 years of planning and implementation specifically for the games, but the bicycle infrastructure system, it's been since 2014 that we are implementing it, and even more because the previous mayor of Paris, Bertrand Delanoë, was also a left-wing mayor and who already started some of these changes. So 7 years, and for the budget, our bicycle net, we invested 250 million euros in bicycle infrastructure in this mandate. So from 2020 to 2026, it will be 250 million euros invested in bikes infrastructure. And for example, I don't have this the broad budget because these are specific budget. For example, Place de la Concorde, there is a specific budget which is decided currently from the low traffic zone. The low traffic zone is not costing a lot, around 10 million, because there is no big infrastructure change. The car sharing lane is costing 20 million euros. So for the games, Paris invested around about 400 million euros, but not only on infrastructure or mobility infrastructure. 400 million euros is also for the fan zones and etc. So as I told you, the budget, it depends on all the specific policies, and maybe the most important one for us, the bicycle, cost us 250 million euros.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for the questions. Jonathan, if you like, you can leave your question in the chat and we will be looking after them during the week. So Pierre, last but not least, if you would need to leave one key message, what would it be? We are starting the week.
Don't wait for broad consensus to start to act, because it will be too late.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't wait for consensus before acting, because it will be too late. Thank you very much, Pierre. I will like you to listen the applause, because my corridor is full of enthusiastic after listening to your presentation.
I just like to add one thing to what I say. Don't wait, but try to build it. Try to build it, but don't wait, because those who want the things not to change will do whatever they can to prevent you from acting.
Thank you, Pierre. Normal again. So don't wait for act, and don't wait for having consensus. Try to build, and then make the best of the opportunity. Congratulations to your team, to the mayor, for having this strong political courage, as you said, to build transformation from an opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Pierre, and we expect you to participate. Yes, great, thank you. So wrap up in this session, opportunities. World Fair Expo in Hanover gave the opportunity for the underground. The Paris Olympic gave opportunities to sustainable transformation. So many times we are having opportunities, but we are not connecting. So this is why we are connecting the dots this year, and we want to connect layers through institutions, nationals, locals, experts from different regions. So this is the moment, if you like, you can turn on your cameras, and we will be going to the end of this session. Every session will be accompanied by a key message taken from the speakers, and those messages will go to a postcard. Next slide, if you can help me there. Thank you, Mariana, for supporting today. We will be collecting the key messages of today, and we will be sharing them on social media. So be part of the movement. Let's blue our social channels, and let's share what is coming out from this Transport Week. So we are coming to the end of this first session. Let's take action, connecting the dots. Welcome, welcome to Transport and Climate Change Week 2024. So this is the moment for you to give us feedback and let us know. We are always looking for improvement. So let us know how we are doing it so we can improve during the week. And don't go too far away. You can scan the QR code and give us the feedback. So do that now. You can get your phones out and you can do your best. Same if you like to turn on your camera so I can see. If you can still put your notes in the chat so you let us know where are you connecting from. So in the meantime, perfectly scheduled time, we will like to move. Hope that everyone has already scanned the code. The code is also in the chat, I guess, so you can give us the feedback. It's a high value for us to know what you think about what we are doing. Thank you, thank you. So what's next? We are having a nice approach and conversation with the ministries of transport from Chile and Colombia, knowing about how to navigate transformation in political sensitive environments. So go take a lemonade, go for a walk, come back. We are starting at 3:30 European time, and we are listening from the ministries from Chile and Colombia, and we are having a panel of women power from the Latin American region to talk about how Latin America is doing those changes from the leading, from the policy to action part. So don't go away. come back. We will be here waiting for you 3:30, so you have time for a walk, a coffee, a lemonade, re-energize yourself, put your things together, and we see us again in a little bit more than half an hour. See you. Bye.